here. Today we're going to talk a little bit about scoring, writing compositions for television and film. Now, basically, what you want to do is, first you need to know what the story is, what basically the content is going to be, and then the whole idea for writing music for television or film is to complement and help tell the story. So over the years, we've done an awful lot of different variety of productions over the years with Virginia Tours, and we did all sorts of segments on history, Civil War history, and of course I didn't have any Civil War music in the vault, so to speak. So I ended up writing 3 different Civil War marches. So you never know what you end up having to write to go with whatever content that you're producing. But we'll give you an example of the workflow through a regular outdoor program that we produce for Jim Baugh Outdoors, and one in particular, a good example of where you get sort of stumped and how you kind of work through the creative process to come up with a good soundtrack that is going to really work well with what you're filming. So today, we're going to talk a little bit about a shoot that we did down in Hatteras, North Carolina, a dive trip with J.T. Barker. Now, we knew that we were going to be doing a segment about some historical dive wreck sites, World War II era, and that was going to be quite a bit of a challenge because we didn't want to write just seafaring music, something very happy or something fanfare for the common man-ish or something like that. We had to write something that would be sort of respectful of the fact that these are sunken ships during World War II. And also, well, it is a lot of underwater footage that we're going to be filming. And we also wanted to do something original that wasn't a takeoff of any other type of seafaring, type themes that you've heard in films or in television. So the first thing we came up with was something that would be good, a good bass line, a good pad pretty much, that would really sort of emulate underwater, and that would be used for the introduction for the dive sequence. And we came up with like a two octave arpeggio, which is ninths. Picture a diver going through the water, with that. There's a lot of activity, there's a lot of fish, there's a lot of stuff going on down there, under the sea around these wrecks, so there's a lot of life. So I wanted something, a nice pad like that is just going to help move that and go with the divers. They're going underwater into these, sunken ships. And so I was really happy to come up with that nice little, 2-octave pad. But then I got stuck. That was it. I could not come up with a melody to save my life but we had to be sort of respectful, not morbid sounding with what we were going to write. The melody, the theme for this piece, which is only going to be about 2 minutes long in the finished, show, this little transitional underwater piece. And I was stuck and just kept thinking of piratical tunes and various other, a lot of fifths and thirds, and I was totally stuck. Probably for the first time in writing soundtracks for the show for 30 years. Well, actually, this was a couple of years ago when we filmed this. So what I did was I went back and looked at Jacques Cousteau, which was I grew up watching Jacques Cousteau, and had not seen the show for a long time. We actually featured a segment. We went on the Cousteau ship Alcyon, actually the only other program that ever was allowed to do that, so we were really excited, and that was a real good show. But I went and looked at a few of their different features, and I had forgotten that they used so much orchestra in their show. I think they used to be 60-minute shows, and it was all orchestra, and it was all very busy. And their theme was fantastic, and I wish I could steal it, but I can't do that. And it was a very seafaring, longing theme, which I really didn't want to do for this particular dive segment. But since it was all orchestra, and I was surprised because I'd forgotten totally about that, it got me thinking about orchestra, orchestral sounds, and what sound would I want to really start the dive sequence. It's sort of being respectful of this underwater ship. And I was thinking about violin and cello over top of this pad. listening to the harmonics, you know, of all those notes, the ninths, immediately within a second, the melody, the theme was right in my head. It was just so clear, but I would have never ever gotten to it had I not just taken the time of listening to that one pad and listening to what the harmonics were in those notes. That is what gave me the melody, which worked perfectly, just absolutely perfect for this one particular scene. We really wouldn't use it for too much else, but for this one particular dive scene, it worked great. Now what we'll do is we'll just go up here and we'll get a cello, cello sound. Cello. This is actually cello and violin. But the melody, listening to the harmonics, was this. Very simple. That was it. And that came right out of listening to the harmonics of that pad. So if you're writing music for film or television, it's important if you get stuck, just to listen to what you have so far in your chordal structure and see what you can pull out of that. Now, as far as when do you write your soundtrack, usually in film they'll do it at the end of the film. The composer won't get they won't even ask for the score until they see a rough cut of the film. We do things a little different in television. One of three ways. Either I have the total piece composed pretty much before I go to shoot it, and we actually film synced to the music in advance. That happens. Then sometimes I don't have an idea for the soundtrack and wait till we go out and film and get inspiration there. That happens a lot. And then lastly, like film, we'll come into the studio and actually write everything and put everything to music. And that is what happened in this case with this dive scene. I could not get the seafaring themes out of my head and was really, really stuck until I came to the pad, listened to it, concentrated on it, and then the melody, boom, it was just right there. So what we're going to do is we're going to play you this little section, this underwater section on the Dixie Arrow, and we're going to play it without the music. It's relatively short, so you can see, because there's no other voiceover, there's nothing else going on. We've got an effects track in there for sound effects, underwater effects, but we'll take that out for this purpose. And we'll let you see that for like a minute or two, and then we'll go ahead and then play it again with the soundtrack and the effects and everything right off to the end, which is two separate pieces of music. I think total length is only about like 3 minutes. This is toward the end of the segment, and this is a good example of how we use soundtrack to really help push and tell our story. And we do this sort of thing, and we write soundtrack for every single show that we do, and of course we do reuse some of our material in other programs as well. But anyway, here we go. Check it out without the soundtrack. And now, we're going to put it all together for you with the soundtrack. And hey, by the way, tell us what you think, leave some comments, and share some of your music with us. We'd love to hear your ideas.